Welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be building this front-end mentor challenge. So if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe, and let's get on to the video. So why you want to subscribe? Because we do web development tutorials here, front-end mentor tutorials, maybe even JavaScript framework tutorials. So today, this is what we're going to be building. It also has a mobile view, and it also has a mobile view. So to get started with it, there's a starter files. I'm going to leave that in the description down below. And maybe the source code, I might leave that in the description down below. So you might check that if you need as well. So if you download the starter files, this is what we're going to get. It's a very easy challenge, and let's get building it right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is that I'm going to remove the style attribution, because this is what you will get when you download the starter files. I don't need that. Then I'm going to have a container, and I always advise you guys to always have a container, but some people might have a main or whatever. That is also good as well. You can even have a main inside of here. Then we're going to have a container then. Inside here, we want to have two divs because it's the image and the text. We want to have the image, then we want to have the text. So the text, we're going to paste this into here. So this text, as you can see, if you look at this in build the community of fans you love. So that's just we can make that 2 H2s or 1 H2 with a break tag. I prefer the H2 with a break tag. So H2, then build the community. This paste, okay. Paste. Then we can put a break tag here. Your fans will love. So we're going to be using either CSS Flexbox or CSS Grid in this tutorial. So I will explain to you how to use that as well. So this one is not going to be inside the paragraph tag. Why this one is our button. Register. So as you can see, that looks very nicely formatted. And inside the image div, we want the image div here. It doesn't matter the order of the image div because that can be easily adjusted. So we're going to have the image of /design. Because images are super annoying to deal with. So there are two images, one for mobile and one for desktop, apparently. So what we're going to do, nope, okay, it's not two images, that's just the background. It's only one image. Or we might have used one CSS script to change the image. So it's just illustration mockup because it's a scalable vector graphics. Save, and that is it. We're done with the HTML already. As you can see, if we look at the HTML, we have this. So let's start styling this accordingly. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a style of CSS. You can make a style tag though, but I remember if you are submitting this to a front-end mentor, I recommend you have the style of CSS. So what I'm going to do is make style.css. So the first thing I'm going to do is first of all, we need to center this. Okay, so I just realized one small thing, guys. We're not done with the HTML yet because there's an image here that I just missed. So I'm going to put that image, but it's not going to be inside the container, just going to be inside the main. So that's the advantage of having a container while isolating these two guys from the rest of the content. You can just have a nav bar here, nav, we don't have an image because it's only that image. So we can just have design, then this is going to be images / logo.svg. So you can see that guy, although it's kind of white, yeah. So what we have to do now is that first now I'm going to do is I'm going to target the body. We're going to give it a background color. And this is inside the style guide, so make sure you download the starter file. So we're going to give it this background color, save. So now we can probably see that. Now we also want to give it a color of white. Then we have to give it a background image. A background image. So background image, we're going to give this a URL. And this is not going to explicitly ask us for the path of the image. You don't have to put this in quotes. So there are two, one for mobile and from desktop. So I'm going to use the one for desktop, plus one desktop. So that is the so one more thing that we have to do is that I'm going to say background position center. Okay, this is just center, and background cover, background size cover. So that just makes sure it takes up the space it's supposed to take up. This background position is positioning it center and center. So that just makes sure it takes up the space it's supposed to take up, and Position center and center. So what you have to do is that you have to target the container. So what I'm going to do to the containers, I'm going to give it a display of flex. You can see it's now put in a flex container. So there's some other properties that we have to apply. So first thing I have to do, we have to give it a maximum width. So we're going to give it a max width of 1200 pixels. So while we are going to change this because when we get to tablet view, we want it to look a little bit different. So after giving that a max width of 1200 pixels, we're going to give this a margin 0 auto. So this is to center it so that the content is properly centered. Then there's one small thing that we missed. This is inside a main. So in the main, what we have to do is I want to do a display of flex, specify content to center it on the x-axis, align items to center it on the y-axis, that is vertically and horizontally. Then finally, we want to take up the full height 100 pixels. You can see that it's properly centered. But we want this to have a flex direction of column. And that puts this guy here. So that is not actually what we want. Actually, that's not what we want because no, we don't want this hurdles section this thing to be intervening with what we have there. So we can just put that guy in header. We can target the container instead, but I do not want to target the container. So just it's not good practice like that. How would I put this in header? So okay, that's better, much better. Alright guys, are centered horizontally and vertically. What we have to do is that I changed the H2 to a H1 just because I didn't tell you that. Then the font is looking so archaic, so let's just give it a base font to start with. We're gonna say font family is gonna be system UI. Okay, that's much better. As for the text div, we have to give it a margin of 20 pixels so that it has some spacing. 20 pixels. Okay, that's very nice. Now let's start styling the button for the text div. Because it's the only button in the page, we can just give it a button. Then one thing you need to know about styling buttons. So the first rule of styling buttons is that you have to remove the border and the outline. So border none. So let's remove the border. I'll remove the border. Let's say outline none. So those are the first rule. And the second rule is that it's the padding. So the padding is one of the main things used to style a button. So the padding, just note this, is that the first padding that you give it should be smaller than the second one. So 10 pixels, 20 pixels. Okay. And that's not still enough actually, sure. But we can increase this one, but also make sure that this one is higher than that one. 15 pixels. Then we have to increase this guy 25 pixels. Okay, so we have removed the padding and the border and the outline. What we have to do next is that we have to give it a border radius. Border radius are also very important. 10 pixels. Let's try that. No, 10 pixels should be too small. 20 pixels. Good. One more thing. Something is wrong with our padding. That's why I knew that something's wrong. Something's wrong with our padding. This one is for top and bottom, while this one is for left and right. And we also have to extend the width sometimes, but this is not always all the time. Just 300 pixels. That's too much. 200 pixels. That's quite right. That's now still too much. 100 pixels. 120 pixels. 150 pixels. Okay, that's quite right. So the next thing that we have to do is that we have to give it a color of white than a box shadow. So color, sorry guys, we have to give it a color of that violent color. So you can't use this, put this in a CSS variable in case you want to use it alone. So this guy, you guys may not know about CSS variable, but it's very helpful and it's very helpful and very nice. It helps reusability, and you don't have to always type in that color. You can just put it in a variable, pretty much like JavaScript variables. Then box shadow. So let's just leave this. I don't want to complicate you guys. Let's leave the box shadow for later. As you can see, we have our design. It's looking pretty nice right now. And let's see if there's any other thing that we missed. And our design is looking quite perfect. So let's maybe we can even adjust the width of this 1200 pixels, and you can even remove the margin of 0 auto if you wanted. But that's not going to do anything. So now what we have to focus on is making this. Right now, at the moment, it's not responsive, so we're going to use something called media query. So I should go down. This is not how we want it to be at all. So we're going to make this deadly responsive. So firstly, what we have to do now is that I'm going to write a media query. Okay, so this is how we write a media query. Then we say max width. We can just write width 1200 pixels, for example, now. But that's going to apply for only 1200, one for devices that are below 1200 pixels, right? First thing you want to do to the container, we want the width to be 1000 pixels, so 1200. We want the image. Remember, this is the div, not the image. Well, because of this dot is the div, not the image. Okay. So we want this guy to have a width of 600 pixels out of that, and we want this guy to have a text of the text div to have a width of 400 pixels. And we also want the dot image because there's another image. So the dot image is the image inside this guy. So what I want to do this guy is I just want to give the guy a width of 100%. So as we go to, this is normal, okay? When we are moving to devices that are less than 1200 pixels, you can see it shrinks. Nice. What we now do is that when the device viewport is less than certain, when it's less than certain width, this is just for tablets. It's going to be our mobile view. So our mobile view, we want this width, and this guy should be 300 pixels. This guy should also be 300 pixels. So if we save this, we get something like this. This guy, as long as the container we want it to be flex direction colon, because this is row by default. So we say right flex direction colon. Okay, now it's at the end here. So to change this behavior, what we have to do is that we want to give this margin 0 auto display flex. So just override it. Display flex justify content center line center. Boom, that should have changed it. And as well for this text, for the H1, we want the font size to be 20 pixels. And that even reminds me, we'll have to do something on desktop. And the text div as well, text align center. Boom. So now let's look at our super responsive device. Boom. Shrinks, then mobile. Nicely done. So for the desktop, one thing I know that this H1 should be a lot more bigger. So the H1, as you see, font size 40 pixels. That looks more bigger. And as we go down, this we also want to reduce it for this tablet view here. So for this tablet view, we just want to give the H1 a font size of 30 pixels. So let's see. Boom. So and even when to the front-end mentor specification is 375 pixels, and I 375 pixels. So if you look at our device in 320 pixels, looks very nice. 375 also very nice. So the one last small thing that we have to do for mobile is that we have to change the background image, the body. So what we have to do here when we are in mobile, we say body background image URL /images /bg mobile. You can see it's not positioned right. As you can see, it ought to be in the top. So we just say background position top center, and this is possible in case you are wondering. We also want to give it some properties as well as background size and cover. Complicated. So here we're going to use something called CSS pseudo classes, but we can't just position arbitrarily. We're going to position after. So when you do this, it creates another element on top of the body. This is quite confusing, right? So let's give this a width of first thing that the first property you should write here. No, sorry, content. This is the content CSS content property. It's very important. If you don't put this, all the style they are written is rubbish. So what we have to do, content that position absolute. Okay, top 0. Okay, after I'm doing that top 0. Okay, Good. What we have to do is that we have to give the body a background image of moon. Okay, that's good. Then what we have to, I've not quite seen it here. So let's give it a width, 100%, and width and height, 100 view height. Save. Now we can see that there, but it's on top of the element. So to fix this, that's when we use Z index. So when two elements are top of each other, we can just say Z index 1 and it's going to be, there's the default. So when you say Z index 2, it allows us to stay in two elements. So if we give it -2, it's going to be behind the elements. But now that we see it here, we want it to be at the top, right? So to put it at the top, what we have to do is I will say top -2000 pixels. Okay, boom. So that's it, guys. Quite tricky, right? With the CSS procedural classes thing, quite tricky. And this nav image, we might even shrink it a little bit because I can see it's way smaller here. So I'll say nav image with 200 pixels. What's 200 pixels? 100 pixels. Okay, that's quite small, so that's better. So we have built this totally super responsive website with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can just put you are the one that did the challenge and your details. So that's it for this, guys. So that's for this tutorial, guys. Like, subscribe, and you can send your tutorial request in the description down below. Thank you for watching.